The History of Enslavement at 105 Brattle. Longfellow House, Washington's headquarters National Historic Site in Cambridge, Massachusetts, is a site where people were enslaved during the colonial period. We know of some of their names, and we would like to share the incredible story of how one family navigated bondage and freedom, becoming a founding family of the Black community of Cambridge. The stately colonial mansion at 105 Brattle Street was likely built by enslaved African laborers in 1759 for John Vassall, Jr. Vassall, only 21 years old, had recently inherited an enormous family wealth: property in New England, sugar plantations in Jamaica, and a long legacy of human bondage. Between 1675 and 1833, the Vassall family and their relatives enslaved thousands of people on their sugar plantations in Jamaica and in their estates in Massachusetts. Two of those individuals, Tony and Cuba, met and married while enslaved across the street at 94 Brattle Street. This was the home of John Vassall's aunt and uncle, Penelope and Henry Vassall. Upon Henry's death in 1769, the family was separated. Penelope kept Tony and two of their children, James and Dorinda. Cuba, who was pregnant with another child, was sold to John Vassall and came to live at 105 Brattle. Shortly after, she gave birth to her son Darby, who was gifted in the next few years to a George Reed of South Woburn, today Winchester. Along with many of the white homeowners on Brattle Street, the Vassall family fled in September 1774, before the start of the American Revolution. Tony joined Cuba and 6 other enslaved individuals at 105 Brattle to maintain the property in their enslavers' absence. The Vassall family, however, never returned to Cambridge. With many loyalists fleeing, the legal status of the people they enslaved was in limbo. Within the next year, the American Revolutionary War broke out, and the house became the headquarters of the Continental Army. Its new occupants included General George Washington, the Continental Army staff, Martha Washington, and most likely enslaved people who attended to the Washington's needs. We know that William Lee, Washington's personal valet, was present at the house during the Siege of Boston, but know few details about his time there, or what he thought of his enslaver leading a cause for liberty and freedom. We return to Tony, Cuba, and their family in 1780 when they were living on a corner of the abandoned Vassall property. They adopted the surname of their enslavers, becoming the Vassalls of Cambridge. In 1781, the General Court of Massachusetts was preparing to sell the Vassall estate. Tony petitioned the court to allow him squatter's rights on the house where his family lived. The petition read, "Though dwelling in a land of freedom, both himself and his wife have spent almost 60 years of their lives in slavery, and that though deprived of what makes them now happy beyond expression, yet they have ever lived a life of honesty and have been faithful in their master's service. They hoped that they shall not be denied the sweets of freedom, the remainder of their days being reduced to the painful necessity of begging for bread." This petition to remain on the property was denied. An annual pension of £12 was granted instead. Utilizing the language of the Revolution, enslaved people in Massachusetts, like Tony, turned to the courts in petitions and legal cases to advocate for their natural and unalienable right to that freedom. These legal actions, called freedom suits, and the 1780 Massachusetts Constitution unraveled the legal protection for the institution of slavery in the state. A 1783 case, Commonwealth v. Jennison, was a major turning point in that process of legal freedom, which culminated in the passage of the 13th Amendment in 1865, abolishing slavery in the United States. In 1787, Tony purchased a house and a 1-acre lot on what is now Massachusetts Avenue and Shepherd Street near Porter Square. This property expanded over the years and was passed down to his children, including Darby and Catherine Vassall Lewis. Through Catherine's 1815 marriage into another prominent family in Cambridge, the Lewises, a black community began to emerge near the Cambridge Common. It was known as Louisville. The descendants of these two families went on to leave their mark on history. Darby became a founding member of the African Society in Boston and advocated for a school for black children on Beacon Hill. An uncle on the Lewis side, Kwaku Walker Lewis, was a founder of the Massachusetts General Colored Association, later known as the New England Anti-Slavery Society. Another Lewis, Enoch, formed the Cambridge Liberian Emigrant Association. This family worked incredibly hard to achieve success in an unfriendly environment, creating a tight-knit black community and advocating for the rights of their people. Who has an untold story in your community?